Episode 287.
I think what we have to recognize in terms of it being different is society is so different. There's so many pieces of this, that we as a generation my age, we never felt entitled to anything. We felt we had to earn everything. Well, we can't blame the millennials for the entitlement because we created it. We're the generation that created the entitlement for the millennials. Why are we down on them for feeling entitled when we entitled them? That's our fault.
Welcome, aftermarketers, to Remarkable Results Radio. Listen to learn just one thing from today's episode on your journey to remarkable results. Welcome, aftermarketers throughout North America and around the world. Carm Capriato here with a foremost look at the millennial. Now, on the podcast, we've talked about hiring millennials and engaging them in our workforce. If we are to seed our industry with youth and grow our own, we must look at the millennial in the light of wanting to best understand how to integrate them and nurture them into our workforce. Bill Haas presented at ASA Cars at Apex this year, November 2017, and I knew you needed to hear from him. Bill is a great friend of the podcast and brings his research and wisdom to you in an episode that could be the quintessential blueprint for hiring and engaging millennials in your business. This episode is supported by Federal Mogul Motor Parts. They are the reason you enjoy these great aftermarket interviews. Now, when you need innovation and quality, you need Federal Mogul Motor Parts. With brands like Moog, Felpro, Wagner Brake, Anco, Champion, Seal Power, FP Diesel, and more, they're the parts techs trust. Find out more at fmmotorparts.com. And thank you for supporting these brands. I've got 3 engagement tips for you. Join the podcast social network like Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. Join the Insider Newsletter Brigade and get the inside on every new episode release. And get the free listening app. Hey, you can find every engagement at remarkableresults.biz/social, and there find every link you'll need to join. Your learning curve never sounded so good. Hey, the network of connected listeners builds every week, and I'm honored to have new Facebook friends Sarah K. Jenneret, Ethan Horn, Wayne's Garage, and Chuck Olson. And my latest LinkedIn connections, Roy Garrison, Mike Fitzgerald, and Chris Pacey. Welcome. As I just mentioned, I heard Bill Haas deliver a presentation on the phenomena that happens every 20 years or so. A new generation of workers arrives. Now, for many of us, we raised today's millennials, or Generation Y. They are made up of the 22 to 40-year-olds who number 79 million. They comprise the largest segment of the workforce. Hey, Bill was so kind to condense his multi-hour presentation at ASA Cars and bring us a very powerful segment on the embracement and integration of the millennial into our workforce. Hey, for that matter, the lesson here works for all workers, but you'll learn what really makes the millennial tick and why they behave like they do. Each generation has its quirks. Gen Y is no different. Now, once you learn what moves and motivates them, you'll find it so much easier to accept and keep millennials motivated in your business culture. Give this episode your due. Find the talking points at remarkableresults.biz/E287. Now, here's Bill Haas. A warm welcome to Bill Haas from Haas Performance Consulting and the business manager of NACAT. Hey, Bill.
Hey, Carm, how are you?
Great. Hey, you're a keynoter in the industry too, right?
Yes, I do.
You are everywhere.
Well, honestly, I probably travel a little less than I used to, which is okay. Mm-hmm. But I think what that really says is the events that I do are probably more important. How's that?
You are my go-to guy on millennials. Now, I wonder, how's a quality, seasoned, wise owl like you become a millennial expert?
Honestly, by accident. So I was asked to do a seminar, and I wrote the seminar. And from that point, which was, I can't even tell you how many years ago, I've just continued to do the research and the development and, made it kind of one of my passions of understanding what really works and doesn't work with that group of people.
I'm excited to have this because I saw you speak and do this seminar at the ASA Cars out in Las Vegas. And I was so impressed. I took a lot of notes and I said, well, okay, how can I get Bill to pay this forward for my listening audience? And you were so kind to agree to come on.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Oh, man. Great friend. Thank you so much. So what we're going to talk about is the millennial and expectations. And in your presentation, the 7 essential elements, I want to tease the audience with this because we'll get into it in depth. Pay a competitive wage, fair and effective management, benefits, training, empowerment, recognition, and opportunities and challenges. And then we're going to finish it off with the 7 simple questions that millennials want answers to. So are you ready, man?
I am ready, Carm.
So in your coaching, Bill, do you talk a lot about millennials to shop owners from either being an employee or a customer?
Absolutely, all the time. I mean, I think if we're not talking about that today, we're really missing the biggest opportunity. And, you've heard it. We've all heard it so many times, the whole thing about what's the big issue in the industry? The big issue in the industry is what? Well, it's the technician shortage, and every shop out there is struggling to attract the right kind of talent. And so, of course, when we're dealing with the hiring aspects of finding that new person to bring and join our team, you can't help but have some young people apply for some of these positions. And it never fails that, the employer is a little bit jaded in their take on this whole thing because they're getting resumes or they're getting applications. And the immediate response to me always is, oh, see, we're not even going to talk to this person. I'm like, why? What's going on? What's the problem? And they're like, oh, they've already had 8 jobs. And that makes them somehow having 8 jobs or, whatever the number is, but multiple jobs, probably more than 2, I think is sort of everybody's limit for some reason. But it's like you're a bad person if you've worked more than 8 places. And so, I try to bring that back right away with getting them to understand that, maybe you're looking at this with the wrong perspective. Let's look at it with a perspective of what's the opportunity. I mean, why has this person had 8 jobs? Maybe they're not a bad person 8 times in 8 different places. Maybe they've been to 8 bad places. Maybe they just haven't found a home. And so when you change your perspective of thinking about what's the opportunity with this individual, what I really try to get employers to look at is why have they had 8 jobs and what have they learned in those 8 jobs?
So wait a minute. What you're saying is it's our job as the employer to figure out what happened. Don't ignore the resume. I got it.
Don't just, everybody wants to take that, application or resume with this long work history and just crumple it up and throw it in the trash, just file it and go. And I'm like, whoa, time out. Wait a minute. What can we learn about this person? I mean, so I think there's some obvious, does that job even exist today? Does that company even exist today? Because, think about as long as we've been around, we've seen a lot of things come and go and happen and change. And so maybe these people have worked for a company that company doesn't exist, or the company might have been part of a merger and acquisition, and they were out in the shuffle, right? Or maybe that job doesn't exist anymore. But the reality is that if they've been in 8 different places and had 8 different experiences, or 8 different similar experiences, depending upon how you want to look at it, but what did they learn, and what can they bring to us as an employee that'll add value to what we want to provide customers?
So what I see, and I took some notes from your seminar in Vegas, 10 jobs by 35 years old. So it's exactly with what you're, average. So if I'm getting a resume from a millennial and there's anything less than 10 jobs, okay, that's almost the norm. What you're saying is,
correct.
Please don't treat that like you would have in previous generations. 79 million in the workforce, the highest generation who's out there working. Well, I guess if we don't pick from the highest generation of the most workers, we're going to be wondering, it's worse than a tech shortage. You'll never have anybody in the office. You'll never have a service advisor.
So you're going to say, I'm going to wait till I find that person who's only had 2 jobs because somehow that's a quality I'm looking for. That means you'll never hire anybody because that person doesn't exist probably.
It goes way, way beyond that. So, hey, let's jump into these 7 essential elements. The first one was pay a competitive wage.
He really picked one of my favorites to start because I think that's an area in the industry that we're really challenged. And so let's just look at it from the technician side of this. We're not finding experienced techs that want to move around like they used to. The workforce is really, if you think about it, really pretty stable in terms of if you go out and talk to technicians, you're going to find out that they are where they are because they're happy, they're content, they're being taken care of, their needs are being met. And so they're, years ago when we looked at somebody and said, hey, I'll give you 50 cents an hour more, boom, they were gone in a flash. Well, that doesn't happen today. So now today we're looking at bringing in talent that is less experienced, probably got some good book knowledge because they've been to a program, they've been through an automotive technology program. And then unfortunately, when they show up, because they have this desire and they have this curiosity and they want to be around cars. And we say, well, come on in. We'll start you out at $10 an hour and see how you do, and maybe you can work your way up. Well, the reality is that, my opinion, I believe that we need to be paying these people $20 an hour when they walk in the door. Now, the reason I think that's important to do that is, number one, it's going to show them that we're serious. They've invested in themselves. They've gone to school. They've in a lot of cases bought tools. And I know you did your podcast on owning the tools. I'm not going to go there, but typically that's what the expectation is for the tech today. And so I actually have been able to demonstrate to shops that you can pay an apprentice technician $20 an hour, assign them to a mentor, and see the mentor's productivity improve by 10% or more, and that technician that we're paying $20 an hour added no additional labor cost, no burden to the equation. The expense is covered.
Yeah, I was going to say, if I was a typical shop owner, I'd say, well, I can't do that. Well, thank you for figuring out a way.
That's what the shop says. That's what the shop always says. You can't do that. And so you actually have to show them. You have to put pencil to paper, and you have to show them that here's what happens. Here's your technician. Here's your labor rate. Here's what we're producing. Give this veteran technician who becomes your mentor another pair of hands, a helper, and watch their productivity increase. If their productivity only increases by 10%, we're going to cover the cost of this apprentice at $20 an hour. Now, here's the big thing. And I think this is something people really miss, is everybody, every employer, a multitude of businesses are competing for that individual's talent. Some way, somehow, as an industry, we have to present ourselves as a better choice. So if the choices are to go over here and make $14 an hour or $15 an hour, or go over here and make $20, I just raise the bar. Why are we not paying these people a decent wage when they walk in the door? And here's the other piece of that is this whole idea of working your way up, which so many of us did. Carm, you did. You started at the bottom and worked your way up, right?
Yep.
I started at the bottom and worked my way up. I hung around a garage, a gas station, and swept the floors and took out the trash because I was so loved the smell of gasoline and oil. Okay? But that's what I did, and I worked my way up, and that's how many of us did. These people are not going to do that. They've already got an education to the level, and they're so smart that they know they're capable of doing what needs to be done when they walk in the door.
You cannot say that they're going to duplicate your path to your current level of success. It's different. We have to accept it.
Yeah. Different isn't bad. It's just different.
Got it. One of the thoughts that I had as you were talking about $20 an hour, one of the things that I always learned was, okay, before you say no to anything, get out the yellow pad and get out your calculator. And most decisions can be rooted in math, Bill. And, you could attempt.
They have to be data-driven decisions.
Yeah, you could attempt the best that you can to think, well, what does this mean to my company? I'm paying this person $22 to bring on somebody for $20. What's my profit? Where am I? there's so many ways you can positively make the right decision by filling up a pad of yellow paper with a calculator to help you.
So you just touched on something that absolutely drives me crazy. And I see this with business owners all the time, is they're making emotional decisions. They have no data, no evidence to support. And it's kind of like this hiring thing, right? When they look at that resume with that 8, 9, or 10 jobs in their work history and say, this person isn't even worth talking to, is that emotional? Absolutely, it's emotional. And it's the worst possible decision you can make because you made it on your emotions rather than looking at the evidence and using the data to determine if this is a good decision or not.
I want to say something. Eric Svedberg came on the podcast at Apex with me and his young millennial technician named Rex Kate. His episode, yes. Okay, and I have to tell you, Bill, it was such a fun interview to do because here 24-year-old Rex has been working for Eric for 4 years, green as could be, did a little education, and near the end, we had this incredible exchange of ideas. And one of the great ideas that came out of that episode was seek an interview. And I said that to Rex, and Eric said, yes, I guess my job for a millennial is to seek an interview and not just stack the resume.
Oh, absolutely.
Seek an interview. Okay, I love it. I'm talking with Anthony Frohwein, a technical product specialist with Federal Mogul Motor Parts. What are the techs saying about your visit?
Every single time that I set up a training, I try to position the van inside the shop. You know, you're part of their house at that point. Whenever you set aside that time, you tell them that you're coming in, you're providing a lunch, and you're really bringing something of meat and value to the table. Once they get a taste of it, really, by the time you're done, they're asking, when can you come back?
When can you come back? Or, hey, what else you got in your bag of tricks?
Exactly.
So the greatest outcome of your visit to a professional shop
is just to really make a difference in their everyday procedures to maximize the premium end of the product that's being installed. But ultimately, for me being an ex-shop owner as well, is to maximize their profitability in installing the part right the first time and having a happy customer. I always say happy customer is like a happy wife. Happy wife, happy life. Same thing goes with the customer.
I've heard that before. So you take a Wagner OEX pad and you put it into the hands of a technician. What happens?
First off, they're floored with the cut design on the front end. They'd never seen a brake pad like this before. And then you start to break it down into why it's cut the way it is and how it's application or platform specific, how the backing plates are no longer painted, they're zinc coated, and that's for tolerance level, so that way you don't have buildup on the ears and fitting into the hardware. I mean, you get into all the little nuances that they've changed around with that brake pad on top of the performance end of it. I mean, it's phenomenal. And then once they physically try the brake pad either on a customer's car or their own vehicle, I've heard nothing but rave reviews about the brake pad.
Federal Mogul Motor Parts' Garage Gurus is your go-to source for the vehicle training, technology, and answers you need to keep your next job on track. On-site, online, or on demand, the Gurus are here to help keep your business and your career on the road to success. Visit fmgarageguru.com. Hey, number 2, fair and effective management.
So you have to be aware of what's going on and you have to be available, okay? And you do have to be fair. And I think that really starts with creating expectations. So if this whole thing of having job descriptions and creating expectations that are supported by your policies and your processes, that's what these young people are looking for. They're looking for a place that says, I can make this home because I know what's expected of me. And when there's a problem, and I know there will be a problem, and employers need to recognize that as well, there will be problems. I mean, we're people. Things happen. Nothing's ever perfect. So something's going to happen. So sometimes what we fail to do as owners and managers is put ourselves in that other person's shoes. And that's what we really have to do. If we want to be fair and if we want to treat people well and we want to earn their respect, then when there are problems, we've got to put ourselves in their shoes and go, how does this affect me? How am I going to feel when this is over? What is it going to mean to me? And have I still found the right place to call home? Or do I destroy that with one small problem? And a lot of us do that.
Reach out, listen to your people, ask them what they want. Make that a very big part of your business culture.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting that you say that because one of the things that happened when I first got into the consulting side of the business, I was actually on a project for the local technical college, and they sent me on a project to work in one of the local paper mills. And I was so impressed by this one individual that oversaw the department, and his people were phenomenal. I mean, it's like it was one of those places that you don't imagine you're ever going to find because nobody ever has a bad day. But that's what this environment was like. And so I was there for a couple months. And at the end of that, I was talking to the manager of that department, and I said to him, I said, this is amazing. How have you done this? And he said, well, there's really not that much to it. He said, I just look at it that my job is to know what people want. And so I have to spend time with my people. I have to talk to my people. I have to listen to my people because if I listen, they'll tell me what they want. And then my job is to make sure they get it. And I thought, wow, there it is. The whole thing right there in a nutshell is all you got to do is know what your people want and then make sure they get it. Pretty simple.
And it doesn't matter what generation, Bill.
Yeah, right.
Reaches all generations. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Number 3, benefits.
Well, benefits are something that everybody has to deal with. Everybody wants time off, and so how do you put that package together of meeting their needs? How do they find time off? How do they maybe have a flexible work schedule? Is there a way that they can do something besides that standard work a year, get a week off kind of a thing?
And millennials do want time off more than I think any generation in the past.
Absolutely. My daughter's the best example of somebody wanting time off. I have yet to figure out how she keeps a job. But she does because she's so good at what she does. And then I am I biased? Yeah, it's my daughter, but I also know her boss. And her boss is like, she knows what her job is. Her job is always done. Not only is her job is done well. And so when Sarah says, "Can I have off Wednesday afternoon and come on in late on Thursday because me and 3 friends are going to a concert in Chicago, and she's 100 miles from Chicago," her boss says, no problem, go. And that's the kind of thing they're looking for.
She earned it.
She earned it. She, when she works her butt off. But she doesn't work in our traditional sense of you're going to be tied to that desk from 8 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon, and you're going to be there Monday through Friday. We have to figure out how to do that.
Right, but the boss had to recognize the needs of the millennial.
Oh, absolutely.
If he would have said no, that would have been pretty tough.
Would have been tough.
It would have been tough for her and the rewards that she gives him by accomplishing her job. Not that she would do it any less, Bill, but I think that's the deposit in the emotional bank account wasn't there then.
Right. But here's what we have to remember. My daughter, to me, is the perfect example because she would be the first one that after a few opportunities of not being able to go to her concert in Chicago would be gone.
There's the job change.
Please don't ask me to share my daughter's resume because her list of previous employment is probably like at 15 or 18 or something like that because she never found a home. But she's got a home now. So, yeah, the benefits, there's the time off, there's the, all that stuff they need. They need health care. They need retirement. And I think we need to get smart about this whole benefit thing because it's bigger than time off and health insurance. We need to figure out how to give them a retirement plan. Why aren't we providing these young people with a financial planner that says, let me help you prepare for your future? Because if that doesn't happen, it won't happen. Why are we not providing them with some tuition reimbursement? So if I bring this person on board that just came out of school or came out of school a few years ago, or better yet, if I'm looking for the thing that differentiates me from all the other employers, start helping them pay back their student debt. And these young people have a tremendous amount of student debt. The last number I saw was the student graduating today, the average student graduating today will be paying student debt when they're 51 years old.
Oh, my.
Tuition reimbursement, a tool allowance. I mean, start thinking outside. We always hear that old phrase, right? Think outside the box. Damn it, break the box walls down.
I get it.
And
break
do
the box.
Something nobody's ever done before. So when this person comes in and you go, hey, you just graduated from college and da-da-da-da-da, you don't have to ask. You already know they're in debt. Say, well, one of the things we do at ABC Auto Repair is we have a tuition reimbursement program. So for the period of time as you work here, we'll help you pay towards your student loan. I mean, these are things that make a difference.
And all you got to do is get out the yellow pad in your calculator.
Bingo! There we go again. There's a yellow pad and calculator. Yes, absolutely.
Or call up your business coach and says, hey, what do we got to make next year in order to afford something like this?
Give me a way to do this.
Yeah, let's figure it out. Yeah.
And people, it's so easy, and I'll bring this up because we're at that time of year where we're doing a lot of stuff with sales forecast and budgeting and all that. But it's really amazing when you start to look at improving the gross profit dollars on your parts by just a little bit, how much it adds to the very bottom line, that net profit number, the number we get to keep. Well, that's the number that as we improve that number, if I can add a little bit to that number, then that means I can put a program in place for tuition reimbursement or a tool allowance. Or we're always looking at this wrong. And what I mean by that is we're always looking at this saying, that's going to cost me money. That's going to cost me money. But these are the people that make you the money. Without them, there is no money. Oh, wait, here's the alternative. Go back in the shop and do the work yourself, because that's how you started. Not a happy ending.
We've got to do a software upgrade to a scanner that costs 4 figures, and we do it. But we may not invest in the actual people asset that runs and pulls the levers on that piece of equipment.
Exactly. That's a great point.
Very intuitive, Bill. Thank you so much for that. Let's do number 4, training. Got to be big.
It's huge because it doesn't end. I mean, this is really about being a lifelong learner. And I don't care what side of the business you're on. I don't care if you're the technician out in the shop. I don't care if you're the advisor up front. At least with the technician, they had an opportunity to go to an automotive technology program and learn the basics of how things work. Where does an advisor learn that? Where does an advisor learn the psychology of sales? Where does an advisor learn how to read? And for so many advisors, and there's wonderful ones out there, I mean, they're phenomenal, but they had to learn all of that on the job. They had to learn it trial and error, try something that worked, try something that didn't work. And in today's environment, the days of the order taker are gone. Your business, you cannot survive in business today with an order taker. If you simply have something that just somebody that answers the phone and takes an order from a call or a customer, you can't sustain your business. We really have to have people that will move themselves from being an order taker to a sales maker and genuinely help people and keep the best interest of the client in mind in doing that. So the training's huge. And, again, going back to, we're dealing right now with budgets. And that's a big item of discussion with every client is, what are we planning to spend next year? Where are we sending people? What are we doing locally? What are we doing regionally? What are we doing nationally? I mean, there's some things that unfortunately you can't get locally, so you may have to travel and get to, some events, get to a vision, for instance, or a BIMMERS group meeting or something like that to get what we're really looking for. But you have to do it. But you have to be able to pay for it.
When you make a training plan, is it important to hook a goal to it that you're going to see improvement from that individual, and will that individual come back from that meeting and share what they learned and ask them to say, well, okay, great, you went for a 2-day, give me 5 goals that is an outcome of your training?
I think there's a couple things. So one of the things that I use with clients is we have a training evaluation. So they are actually, in order to get credit for that, because with a lot of our pay plans, their continuing education is a component of a part of their pay. So to track that, they have to complete this training evaluation. And in that training evaluation, they have to tell us how the business will benefit from that training, how the client will benefit from that training, what happened, what was missing in that training, what are other future training needs that are needed. And then the best thing that we do with that is when they do come back from the training is to meet with the rest. So if it's technical training, meet with the rest of the technicians and talk about, hey, here's a couple things that came out of that class I attended. And these are things you should be aware of. Boom. So now it makes them accountable. It's not just, oh, I go to training. Yeah, okay, great. Now you better be paying attention, because we're going to ask for some feedback.
No check the box training anymore. It's really got to be a total immersion. Owners got to be part of the final piece of the training. And one of the things that I think is just a great way to do training. So someone comes back from training and there's the binder, and the binder sometimes ends up on the credenza or in a box somewhere. And I love what you said. Go out and share it with your team, because when you teach, you learn.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's what I think is missing every once in a while, is that someone doesn't come back and gets a chance to restate what they learned.
Yeah, we have to make it a priority, because what happens in most shops is the tech was gone. He was gone to training. We kind of filled the gaps while he was gone. He comes back, we're still busy, and then we're like, oh, well, we'll do that later. We're too busy this week, we'll do it next week, and then it never happens. It has to be a priority, and the priority has to be, so you build timelines around it. And so, like the training evaluation, in order to get credit for that, it has to be completed and turned into the office within 3 days. If it's not, you don't get credit for it. If you don't have credit for it, it's not going to count towards that piece of your compensation. So you do the same thing with the sharing with the rest of the staff. Is the timeline is it has to be done at the next production meeting. So if we're doing this right in the shop, we're having at least a weekly production meeting, which is the best opportunity for that tech then to share that information.
Excellent stuff, Bill. Thanks. Number 5, empowerment. I love this.
Well, it's big. I mean, people need to know that there's some responsibility that comes along with what we're expecting them to do. So if you back up to the piece that I said, well, you have to create expectations. Well, then if there's expectations, you now have to give me some level of authority or responsibility to meet those expectations. And so you empower the people, and you empower them to be able to make decisions, do things that need to be done. And here's the beauty of empowerment. And I think too many people look at this incorrectly. They look at this as control. Like, if I empower them, I've lost control. And that's wrong. Okay? What you do by empowering people is you allow them to grow. And as they're empowered, they take on things that you used to have to do that you no longer do. And it now gives you the ability to do other things that you were never finding the time to do. And that, to me, is the beauty of empowerment, is getting other people to do the things that you don't have to do yourself. Quit being such a control freak. I mean, that's honestly a big part of this. But for the millennial, if they don't feel like they're empowered, then it's just a job. They're just going through the motions. And that's why they leave. There's no challenge in that.
Bill, I always loved assigning tasks or asking for help or empowering, because you can see your future leaders. You can see as you say, empowerment is engagement at the same time. You can see what comes back. You always have to look for people development, and empowerment is a really big part of that.
Well, here's the thing, and I do some stuff on leadership, and to me, the thing that we all have to remember, and this should be something we look at every day. I mean, really, we should put it on the mirror so that when we shave in the morning or brush our teeth, a leader's job is not to do the work. A leader's job is to provide the environment where the work is done. And when you do that, then your people are empowered to do the work because you're not doing the work.
I can't imagine the feeling that someone gets about the ownership of their position when they're asked to own it.
Oh, yeah.
When they're asked to own it. This is your job. I'm not gonna helicopter parent. I'm not gonna hover over you.
You see this all the time when there's a problem in business. What happens when there's a problem in business and people aren't empowered? The very first thing they do is they go to the boss and they say, "What do I do now? This happened. What do I do?" And so the fastest way to start getting us on the path of that empowerment is to just quickly, very simply turn it around and say, "What do you suggest we do?" So instead of just because you are the smartest person in the room, typically because you're the boss, I mean, you wouldn't be the boss if you weren't the smartest person. So that we have this natural tendency to just give them the answer and say, "Well, go do this." Stop. Just say, "What do you suggest we do?"
I love what you just said, because I've been in a circle once where someone came home from work and he says, "Well, how was your day?" They asked me what I thought. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
I felt so good about it. In fact, the idea that I gave, they loved. And that, you don't know the residual that empowerment has until you start giving it.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for that. Wow. Good stuff, Bill. This is just great. Number 6 is recognition.
Unfortunately, we created this ourselves because as parents and, leaders in scout troops or coaches at soccer teams or whatever, we somehow all decided that with this generation, we would recognize everybody, that everybody was a winner. We played baseball or soccer and we didn't keep score because there couldn't be a loser. We had participation ribbons for everyone. And so the same thing, because that's what they grew up with, that's still what they expect. And so they need that recognition. And the problem for a lot of us in older generations as bosses, managers, is nobody had to tell me when I did a good job. I knew when I did a good job. I also knew when I did a pretty terrible job, but nobody had to point it out to me. I knew it. These people really need that little reassurance that you're doing a good job and we appreciate what you do and you'd handled that customer very well. Or, "Hey, I test drove this car after you did this repair and the car runs great. Thank you so much for doing that." And, it's just those little things. I mean, we're not talking about recognition like there's got to be, a spread on a website or a newspaper or anything like that. And I really try to get people to understand that we're pretty good at catching people doing things wrong. We need to get better at catching people doing things well and saying it, recognizing it, saying, great job. I mean, it doesn't take that much. They just have to know at the end of the day that they were appreciated. And, the thing about the millennial, the primary driver for the millennial, if everybody would remember this and figure out a way to do this to help, the primary driver for the millennial is they want to be part of something where they know they make positive contributions to whatever it is we do, whatever product we build, whatever service we provide. They just want to know that their role in this is making a positive contribution. And that's what they keep looking for.
So you're saying recognition, even if it's in private. Even if I say, "Hey, Bill, come on in the office. I want to tell you had a great day today. Thanks for these things that you did. That was above and beyond." It doesn't have to be trophy-ish. It doesn't have to be everybody sees it. They will value the private as well as the public.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Definitely will. Yep. But if they just come to work every day and they leave every day and they go for weeks on end without anybody recognizing anything that they've did, other than a paycheck being deposited in their bank account, they don't know what to think of that.
You will just be another notch on the resume.
You'll just be another notch in the resume is exactly right, Carm.
Number 7. Wow, 7 essential elements. Number 7, opportunity and challenge.
Well, opportunity and challenge. And they want to be challenged, certainly. They want to know that there's opportunity. And I'm going to roll that back into what I just mentioned about making that positive contribution. And I've got a story to help illustrate this. So about a year ago, I guess a little over a year ago, I'm actually at a conference as an attendee. So yes, for your listeners, I still go to training.
Good for you.
Okay. So I'm at this conference and they're doing this thing on this millennial topic. And they have a young man who is a millennial. He is into his second job. Okay. But he's talking about his first job. And so his first job, like many of these people, was working in a fast food restaurant. And so he's telling the story about the day that his manager told him to go get French fries. And he looked at his manager and said, no. What do you think happened next? Now, a lot of people say, well, he got fired. Well, no, he didn't get fired. Okay. What actually happened was the manager went and got the French fries. Now, when you dig into this a little bit and you understand what was going on with the millennial, the question I have for the millennial is, why wouldn't you go get the French fries? And his answer was, because I'm being picked on. I'm the only one that ever has to go to get the French fries. And do you know where the French fries are kept? The French fries are kept in the freezer, and it's cold in the freezer. And I'm tired of being the only person that has to go get cold in the freezer to get French fries. And that's why I told my manager no. And I also knew they wouldn't do anything.
What a powerful story.
So now think about this, right? So the driver for the millennial is he making positive contributions to what we do? And so what you have to do is you have to have a new perspective of this. And so now you don't tell the millennial to go get French fries. You tell the millennial, because you create an expectation, and you tell the millennial, your job is to make sure we never run out of French fries. Do you know why we can't run out of French fries? No. And then you share with them, why do people come to McDonald's? Well, people come to McDonald's because they expect fast food. And when the French fryer runs out of French fries, we can't put orders out and meet the customer's expectations. So it takes too long to get them their order. We're not meeting their expectation of being fast food. So the way you add value to this whole piece is you're the guy that I'm going to depend on to make sure that the French fryer never runs out of French fryers. Guess what happens? He's challenged. You created the opportunity. You empowered him. And now you have a guy that's going, I will make sure that we never run out of French fries again.
I know my job has a why.
Yeah. It's not just somebody telling me what to do. There's a purpose. There's a purpose.
By the way, Bill, the best comfort food ever, French fries from McDonald's.
My wife would agree with you, completely. We could go anywhere to get a hamburger, but she'd want to stop at McDonald's for their French fries to go with our hamburger.
Oh, boy. So are performance reviews under the opportunities and challenges different for millennials?
I think they are, because the one thing that I see that is different is you have to do them more often. And so I will tell you this. I've actually taken the performance reviews that I have clients do and abbreviated them so that they weren't so laborious and time consuming, because we use a two-part performance review where there's a self-assessment by the employee, there's an assessment by their supervisor, and then the performance review is sitting down to see where the opportunity is. Where are we doing well? Where's the opportunity? And having really a conversation by both parties, then rather than just the supervisor saying, you do this good, you don't do this so good, and you got a raise. Okay. So for the millennials, it has to happen a little more frequently. So to that point, I've abbreviated that performance review system that I use so that we can do quicker and more frequent. And so now we can do at least a semi-annually, if not quarterly, and do that one-on-one. That's the feedback they're looking for. Feedback's critical to these people. They want, these are the people, got to remember, these are the people that come to the boss at 10 o'clock and go, hey, boss, everything okay? How am I doing? And you're like, what's that about? And then at, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they're right back there going, hey, boss, everything okay? How am I doing? And you can't ignore that. You have to respond to it. But I think a big part of that is doing a formal performance review. But yes, I would definitely suggest that you do them more frequently with these people.
One of the thoughts that I had when you were telling the French fry story was, love the story, is when we hire millennials, we consider giving them the lowest job in the place. If they're not coming on with a particular purpose in mind, we say, well, let's bring this guy, let's grow our own. And we make a mistake, and why grow your own doesn't work is you never gave them a meaningful opportunity or challenge.
Right. See, and in the shop, when you do this with technicians, that's a key to finding the right technician to be your mentor, because part of that has to come from them. They have to be able to be that teacher. One of the mistakes we make is a lot of times we look for the mentor to be the most senior person, and they're typically not the best suited for that. We actually need to find somebody who's got some experience, that it's a little bit closer to the millennial in age, that there's a few things at least that they can connect on, and they'll be a really great mentor. But that mentor does have to be able to show them the whys.
I don't know about our audience, but this has been illuminating. Now, I want to do, as we promised at the beginning of the show, questions that a millennial employee would ask themselves. And there's 7 of them in your presentation, and I love them. And the first one is, do you know me?
Well, I think that's big because, these people want to know, am I just somebody that shows up here, or do you really know anything about me? Do you know what my life is like outside of work? And, a lot of times as employers today, we're more than just employers, because we hear about things that are going on in their personal life. We're hearing about their relationships. We're hearing about the activities that they like to participate in or be involved in. Believe me, I talked earlier about my daughter and her thing about going to the concerts, right? Well, if you want to connect with her, if you want to be the person to know her, you better spend a little bit of time to find out who some of these bands are that she likes, so that when she comes back, there's something there. That's when they ask themselves, do you know me? Because if you don't know me, I'm not important.
Did they play your favorite song? Would be a great question to ask.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Great stuff. Thank you. Your second question, millennials ask, do you understand what's important to me? I guess it goes back to the concerts, right?
Well, it could be the concerts, but I think, unfortunately, we're so driven around about, money. If I pay them money, they'll come into work, and that isn't what's always most important to them. What's most important to them is, hey, you know what? My children are most important to me. So if you understand what's important to them, then you're more inclined to say, you know what? I'll figure out a way to work a schedule that allows you to drop your kids off at daycare in the morning and start at 8:30 instead of 8 o'clock. Because that's important to you. So that's why you have to know they're asking them, do they know what's important to me? Because money isn't the most important thing to me. My family is the most important thing to me, or my friends are the most important thing to me, or whatever it is. But that's why they ask that question.
Thanks, Bill. Number 3, what can you do to help develop my skills?
Oh, so, now there's that training thing, right? So we talked about we should be lifelong learners. And so what can you do to help me? Because they're always looking for, this is probably not what I'm going to do the rest of my life. And we know that. The evidence for that is, the global workforce study tells us that the millennial, by the time they're done with their working career, will have had 15 jobs and 3 different careers. So they're looking at us going, what can you do to help me? I want to advance. I want to, maybe I came in as working in the parts department. I'd like to become a service advisor. Or maybe I started as a technician and, I'd like to be a drivability tech. Or how can you help me? And so that training piece becomes really critical in that, because we've got to stop this shotgun approach to training that just says, hey, there's a training class, go to the training class. Create the expectation of, if this is where you want to get to, this is the training path to help you get there. And I've really got to applaud a good friend of ours, Chris Chesney, because that's one of the things that he's worked so hard on in recent years, is creating that training path that technicians see a way of getting where they want to be.
Yeah, we did a great interview with Chris. I encourage everyone to go out and listen to Chris Chesney's interview on the podcast. I read a survey. 65% of millennials, personal development is the most important factor in their job. 65%, and it was a UNG Keenan Flagger Business School survey. I had to say that because it lends exactly to that question of yours. 7 simple questions. Number 4: when do you think I'm worth a raise, boss?
And that's a problem for a lot of us, right? We get so wrapped up in what we're doing, and everybody seems to be content, and things are going along pretty well. And when do we stop and realize that, hey, it's time to do something for these people. It's time to do some adjustment to, their compensation that they can continue to earn. I mean, boy, I hope that a lot of people aren't in the situation that I'm in, but I wrote the check yesterday for my new health insurance, which is a 26% increase over last year. I know I'm not the Lone Ranger. I mean, but, that's happening in everybody. That's happening in everybody's lives. And I don't care if it's insurance or bread. I don't grocery shop a lot, but on occasion I'll go with my wife to the grocery store. My God, I'm appalled when I look at some of the stuff, the prices on the shelf, and go, well, I guess we have to have it. And so what I really want to encourage people to do is make this something that they put on their calendars that happens regularly, so we're not waiting for that millennial to come in and say, man, do you think I'll ever be worth a raise? Don't make people cause that question. You should be in front of that. You should be in front of that saying, here's what we're going to do this year.
So a guaranteed 3-month review. Let it be about culture and behaviors. Bill, I heard this great story once. Listen, if you're going to give somebody, an X amount of a raise in 3 months, pay them that on day one, and just tell them that, in 3 months we're going to. Yeah, I want to tell you, I was going to give you a raise in 3 months, and I give it to you now, and in 3 months we're going to find out how well you did.
What does that cost you over 3 months? I mean, if you think about it, right? If we give somebody $1 an hour raise, and the average employee works for us 2,100 hours a year, so we're talking about $2,100, and we can't find a way to make adjustments in our business to offset that. I mean, we need to be raising our labor rate twice a year. At January 1 and July 1, every year, that labor rate needs to be increased. And we really need to focus all year long on making sure that our parts margins are correct and our labor gross profit dollars are correct, because that's what's going to allow us to do that.
I hear a lot of stories about increasing sublet too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because sublet, nobody wants to pay attention to sublet.
Okay, 7 simple questions. Number 5, do you care about what I think, Bill?
Your story about somebody coming home and saying, they asked me today what I thought. There's your answer right there. I mean, look at how powerful that was. And they're asking themselves, these 7 questions that we're talking about, these are questions that the employee is asking themselves daily. Every day, these questions go through their mind. This isn't an occasional thing. This is an everyday thing. So, do you care what I think? How can we make sure that they understand that we care what they think, that what is important to them becomes important to us? And so here's the only way that I know that that happens is you have to be engaged. You have to be with your people. Now, some people think that working in the business is being with your people, and that's absolutely wrong. because you're focused on the wrong thing. If you're working in your business, in other words, if you're one of the advisors or you're one of the technicians, you're not with your people. You are the people. So if you really want to be with the people, that's when these things come out, that you learn what's important to them. And if, when will you ever, give me a raise and all these kinds of things. Again, we just have to be in front of that. Unfortunately, too much of this stuff, when the question finally gets asked, we're reacting to it. I want people to start to think about, how do I put myself in a position that I am always ahead of this and I'm proactive in answering these questions? So think about it. If I know that those are their questions, answer their questions before they get asked. This is what good sales is, right? A good salesman asks a question before it gets asked, answers the question before it gets asked.
People also ask questions they know the answer to.
Oh, yeah.
That's almost what these 7 seem like to me. And, we'll put all of these in the cliff notes of your show notes page for here so that people can go back and just click and copy and paste it and create for themselves. And if they remember this is what's going through the millennial's head, they will work their butt off to make it happen so that when they do ask the question, hey, really, I care about what you think, then that's something that's been going through their mind. I love this, Bill. Let's do question number 6. Can you appreciate my effort?
Again, it's just saying thank you. I mean, this isn't like we're having to, give them a participation ribbon or anything like that. Just say thank you. Thanks for a great job. Thanks for being on time this morning. Because you were on time this morning, we got that client taken care of and got them to work, that they didn't have to be late for work or anything. I mean, it just is a simple thank you.
Reinforce the behavior.
You really want something big? You want to really let them know they're appreciated? Because this doesn't happen anymore. Hand write a thank you note and put it on their toolbox. Put it by the time clock with their name on it. So you got 5 people working for you and one person has an envelope by the time clock. What does everybody else think?
Pink slip.
Pink slip, they're getting fired, right? Oh, what did Johnny do? That's too bad. I hope he can find another job. And Johnny opens it up and it's like thanks, Johnny. We really appreciate what you do and the way you do it. You're so good with our clients. Man, you want to get some mileage out of that. That stuff works. Let them know they're appreciated. How about this? If you really want to let them know they're appreciated, put something on your Facebook page about something that an employee did that helped a client or helped the business or helped a fellow employee, or I don't care what it is. How much mileage do you get out of that? You talked earlier about the person that went home at night and said, well, they asked me what. How about the person that goes home at night and goes, I was on Facebook today? Yeah,
you're talking to the tech-savvy generation.
Right.
They're going to check there first.
Exactly. All their friends are going to know it's out there before they do, because they're still at work.
The final question, the final 7 simple questions that millennials ask themselves, the final one here is, am I respected?
Well, I think everybody wants to be respected. Nobody's going to stay somewhere where they're not respected, right? So you have to make sure that they understand that they're respected. And part of that is making sure that they're in a safe environment. Part of respect is making sure that they're not bullied at work or they're not taken advantage of, and that I've got your back. I'm here for you. And I respect all that you know and all that you do. Okay. Respect has to be earned, absolutely, but it's reciprocal as well. They're not going to respect you if you don't respect them.
I've so enjoyed this. I have learned so much. I appreciate the research that you have done to really, bring this to light for our industry. But let me tell you an interesting takeaway, Bill. This is not all about millennials.
Oh, it's not.
This is what my takeaway is. Yeah, it is about people. It is about treating your people, building a team, and no matter what generation there that works, everybody's got their certain tendencies. And I know we're concentrating on the millennials, the biggest part of our workforce, the toughest to hire today, the toughest to keep. But yet, this is a universal message.
I think what we have to recognize in terms of it being different is society is so different. There's so many pieces of this, that we as a generation my age, we never felt entitled to anything. We felt we had to earn everything. Well, we can't blame the millennials for the entitlement because we created it. We're the generation that created the entitlement for the millennials. Why are we down on them for feeling entitled when we entitled them? That's our fault. Okay. The whole technology side of this, I'm so amazed when, shops talk about not allowing the employees to bring the cell phone to work. That's their life. It's their life, and I would have people ask me all the time, well, how do you feel about, cell phones at work? And I'm like, they're wonderful. They're great. It allows them to be who they are. It even enhances what they do at work because they have access to things that they wouldn't have without that cell phone. And they go, yeah, but they're not doing work. That's your fault. That's the manager's boss, the boss's fault. If they have time to be on their cell phone, what that tells me is you don't have enough for them to do. So find more if it bothers you that they have time to be on their cell phone, then find more for them to do. And in fact, think about it. Their driver is they want to know that they make positive contributions. So give them more to do. Positive stuff, not menial, redundant tasks, because how does it remember the French fry story? It's got to have value. How do you make it?
Got to be a why.
Positive contribution.
Got to be a why.
What's the purpose?
Wow. Okay. Yes, you are my millennial expert, no doubt. Bill Haas.
I'm an old guy for that. You know that, right?
Great friend, Haas Performance Consulting, and of course the business manager for NACAT, really important organization for our schools. And Bill, thank you for really helping create what I believe was a service professional millennial audio soundbook here for us. And I think this is going to be enjoyed over and over again by thousands and thousands of people wanting to really understand if they're on the right track or what they need to do to improve the way they manage people, especially millennials. Thanks so much.
Carm, thanks for the opportunity.
Hey, thanks, Bill Haas. You really, really set up a great course or path to follow as it relates to our millennial workforce. Hey, for a list of episode talking points and Bill's extended bio, see the show notes at remarkableresults.biz/E287. Hey, keep in mind that if you want to find a single subject forum that presents issues and solutions to many trending topics, check out the Town Hall Academy. Find this very powerful aftermarket resource. It's free at remarkableresults.biz/academy. Your learning curve never sounded so good. Hey, if you need to get in touch, email me, Carm at remarkableresults.biz, and share the love on social media. Now, go ripple the water and forward this episode to someone who can value the power of this message. Thanks.
Thanks for being on board to listen and learn from the premier automotive aftermarket podcast. Until next time,